Welcome to the Under the Hood show from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. You've got me now thinking about pointing.
I just realized that maybe I point when I talk at people, and I've always thought I was one being pointed at.
Mm-hmm. So you are a pointer, which is fine, I think. It doesn't, I don't even think I noticed it until you brought it up. But
It's odd, though, that I'm concerned about somebody else pointing at me, and I'm a pointer.
Yeah.
That mentally, I'm a little concerned about the psychological
I always thought
analysis
he
of
was
that.
more akin to like a Jack Russell.
He's a little fidgety.
Well, I was just thinking before this show started, you guys were sitting here calling me. I came in and bring in a nervous element as soon as I walk in the door, and you guys tell me I have 3 minutes. To me, that sounds like an eternity.
Right.
Yeah. I close the door, and then I leave again.
Yeah.
After pointing at you.
You came in and said, "Is it already time?" I said, "Yes, we have 3 minutes." You started a conversation, then left to go get ready for the show to come back in. Yeah.
I also realized I hadn't been to the bathroom yet. So this is, you know what? I think I need to be profiled. I need to be sat down,
Checked over.
talk to.
What
Yes.
would you do with a watch, a real watch, not a phone? A watch.
I have watches. As a matter of fact, there was a time in my life where I really liked watches.
I'm in that phase now.
The '80s.
I have swatches and I have fossil watches. I have a pile of them.
I nailed you for a fossil watch.
I have got
yeah.
a pile of them in a box downstairs.
I've never owned a Swatch watch or a
Yeah.
fossil watch.
Yeah, there was a phase that we had those.
I'm going through a phase now.
I won't do the Apple Watch. Intrigues me, but I just won't wear one because, at work I can't wear it. I'm working on cars,
Yeah.
and the second I leave, I turn my phone off and stuff it in the console because I don't want to be bothered, and I don't want to be out on the golf course, in my watch going, "Hey, you got or whatever."
Yeah.
You ever get those times where you just want to turn off?
I would point at your watch when it's beeping. I'd go,
Hey, it's going there.
Yes.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Arizona right off the bat and talk to Kenny. You're on the Under the Hood show. Kenny, what can we do for you?
Hi, I got a complaint about plastic components on motors.
So do we.
My my 2012 Jeep Liberty, I was at the store getting ready to go home. The car's loaded with groceries. I go to start it, bang, the intake manifold
up.
shatters. And my neighbor has a Crown Vic 1998 or 99 Mercury version, and 4.6, I believe, overhead cam engine in it. And his started leaking. Here's a kudos to K-Seal. I suggested that he try K-Seal before he replaces that manifold. He tried K-Seal, and so far it's been about 6 months now, and it's worked perfect for him ever since he tried the K-Seal.
yeah, and they're notorious for leaking around the thermostat housing area on those intake manifolds, and I'm glad the K-Seal was able to help stop that leak and hopefully prevent a future leak.
Go Casey.
And I was sitting at the local truck stop up it's about 20-mile drive from my house. I go there for lunch occasionally. I turn off the car, open the hood, because it'll take an hour for the car to start again after I shut it off. Sometimes it shuts itself off in the middle of an intersection. I'll be there for an hour waiting for it to start again.
Was this before or after it blew the intake off?
This was the new intake manifold.
Okay.
But it did the same thing before with the old intake manifold.
Huh.
But just a couple new fuel pumps, and later, and and new tip in, and just a few $1,000s I spent in the last 30,000 miles trying to keep that thing going.
Is it still doing the problem of dying on you intermittently?
Oh yeah, especially now that the weather's warmer. I've been told that it's vapor lock, but it's an injected engine, so I don't know how
No.
that works on injected engine.
Yeah, that can't happen. I mean, you'd have to. Yeah, it would. That just doesn't happen anymore. You got to determine if it's a fuel problem or a spark problem, and it sounds like it'd be pretty easy to get into the diagnostic mode. You just run it until it dies and won't start, and then somebody can start looking.
Yeah,
Is
I
it
think you
fuel?
called in before with we were really leaning on a fuel related issue, and I think you may have called in before, correct?
Yes, and some of these problems have happened since then. But anyway, I was sitting there with the hood up, and a guy pulls in next to me in a Toyota Sienna van, early '03 or somewhere around there. And his hood, he lifts his hood up. The plastic tube that comes out of the or goes into the motor for the lower radiator hose. The radiator hose was still securely fastened to the plastic tube that goes into the motor. However, the plastic tube was no longer fastened to the motor. It was
Gotcha.
broken off, still securely fastened.
So this
inside
continues
the
the rant
radiator
about
hose.
plastic parts.
That's correct.
Well, we really want to get back to helping you with your problem, though, because
If that intake blew off and he's having a problem with it starting, he has to let it sit a while. I bet it's not losing fuel. I bet it's losing spark. And when he cranked it, it's delivering plenty of fuel. And then when that spark came back, bang, and blew that intake off.
and that was the problem he had before the intake,
We've
and
had
now
that
he still has it.
Yeah, we've seen that with GM, older GM cars too, from the early 2000s. You remember those little Grand Dams
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff, Shannon?
Yeah.
You'd be like cranking it. They had a problem with the crank sensor. Some of them had some computer issues, but you'd crank it. There was nothing, no spark, but the fuel was just spraying in. And as soon as the spark said, "Hey, we're back," boom, valves open, it lights it up, and bang. It's plastic
Typically,
sensor.
typically it'll start right back up, but it won't continue running. It just sputters and dies, and unless I wait the full hour, then it'll start right up and keep running. But
That's
been
one that I
something
know.
I've
I'm
been
looking at
going-
Russ and his facial expressions. If that was at our shop, it would have to be left with us, I think, and we'd have to be able to say, all right, let me drive this home for a night. I mean, you'd have to have some predictability to say, you know what, this happens daily.
I took it. I took it to the the shop, the dealership, for oil changes here, and they have to occasionally push it into the shop in order to do the oil change on it.
Well, that sure seems like you could hook a scanner to it and you could see some things in action happening if it's failing like that. Because whoever's going to do this analysis is going to have to look at the vehicle while it's failing to find out what is dropping out, where it's dropping out. And that might not even tell them how to fix it, but it's definitely going to tell them where to look.
Where the problem lies.
All right, good luck.
I mean, it really is that. It's just got to be brought in and read while it's failing.
We're going to go lobby for metal parts.
Yeah, and Kenny's going to be right there with us with the picket.
If it is the crankshaft sensor, remember, it's plastic.
Kenny, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time to get back under the hood with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search. Autotempest.com/hoodie. This is the Under the Hood Show. Now let's talk to JR. You're on the Under the Hood Show. JR, what can we do for you?
Yeah, good morning. I really love the show. I've listened to it for a long time. You guys have really helped me out a lot.
Thank you.
We appreciate it.
You bet. I need some information. I've got a 2014 Ford Transit Connect passenger van. It's got I believe it's a 2.5, they call it, four-cylinder. In driving it, especially trying to get out into traffic, it seems like my shift points are not nice and crisp. Like it's almost like between gears, there's a spin. Like there's a looseness in there, and then it'll go in. I had the fluid checked just to make sure because I've got a trip tomorrow, and the fluid was really, really dark. I have 44,000 miles on the vehicle, and is there any inherent problem with these transmissions that you guys have run across?
They can fail.
Well,
You don't want to
good.
hear that, but
They're good until they're bad.
well, no, anything can fail. Anything
Yeah.
can fail.
We just don't see a real major problem with these.
Okay.
We've replaced a few of them.
Okay.
Not, I wouldn't say any more percentage-wise for how many they built
Okay.
versus how many fail versus any other model of vehicle, even the Fords
Okay.
and vans and things like that in the cars. But what you're describing, that's usually what happens when they fail. They come in and say, yeah, it's been flaring between gears, and then the fluid got
Yeah.
dark and it just quit. And it
Yeah, that's
Suddenly.
the term, flaring. Flaring. That describes it perfectly.
that's what it does.
so every time it jumps
God.
between a gear, when the valve's turned inside and say, okay, we're going to put pressure to this clutch, now this clutch, now
Okay.
this clutch.
Okay.
At each one of those intervals, it's going before it locks in, before it locks in, and
Yeah.
and so if they were to hook that up and look at it electronically, they would see those RPM flares in each gear. Now, there are times that a professional can look at that and say, you know what? It hasn't been too bad. We've lost a little clutch material here, but I've got a problem in the valve body, or I've got a problem with the calibration, or I've got a problem with something that's not allowing that pressure to engage crispy like it's supposed to. So you always
Sure.
want to check those things as soon as you can, because there
Sure.
are times where it is something that can be fixed without rebuilding the transmission. But
Okay. Okay.
if you wait too long and it doesn't take long, you can do irreparable damage inside the transmission that will require it to be taken apart and or replaced to
Sure.
fix the problem. Especially when you say the fluid's
Okay.
getting dark, because that fluid typically isn't going to get dark unless you're slipping clutches.
Yeah, well, I've worked on vehicles for years, and this is definitely dark, which really surprised me with low miles on it.
Does it? Okay, if you've worked on vehicles for a long time, has it picked up the smell of death yet?
The smell, did you say?
Just the smell of transmission death, has it picked up that smell yet?
Burnt.
You know, I can't say it smells bad, but it just looks bad. And I did try to smell it, but there's really no odor coming off of it.
All right, and so, I mean, there is some hope that you would get this into somebody that's good at the diagnostic side of things and
Yeah.
and look at it just to see, okay, maybe there is a electronic valve that is bad, or something that's hanging up inside that's not allowing the correct pressures. And the fact that it's doing it across all the gears just makes me kind of
Yeah.
wonder about the pressure that's being built inside that unit.
Can you baby it at
Okay.
all on an automatic transmission?
Oh, yeah, to
Okay.
try to get it by a little bit longer, but he's going to need one. So, JR, stay on the line. We're going to have our producer, Doug, over here in the booth get your name and address and hoodie size. We're going to send you a hoodie because you sound like you're going to need some cheering up here in the next short period. So just hang on there, and Doug's going to get you. If for some reason we lose you, just give him a call back and say, hey, I'm the guy with the transit that's
Yeah, and
got
that's
the smell of death in
thanks
my
to our friends
transit.
at UTI for helping out with the hoodies. and-
universaltechnicalinstitute.com.
I was wearing my hoodie the other
No,
day.
no. UTI.edu.
Oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
wonder
yeah.
what happens if you type in that other one. Give that a shot,
Don't-
Chris.
no,
At the
what
break.
if it's-
No, you might get some medical advice.
Oh, you know what? That's right. It's UTI.edu because there is another company.
Yeah, and that's a serious issue. But we're actually talking about education on training here. So, Chris, it's okay. We're gonna make it.
Yeah, good. 866-594-4150. What's caught your guys' attention?
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about tires and the importance of tires. I got a lot of people call me and say, it's time for tires. Just get me some tires. There's things to know about tires. When you go to purchase them, price is an important thing, but how you're going to use them, where you're going to use them, when you're going to use them, that's all important stuff. Did you know that all-season tires are not snow tires? And winter tires are not for summer driving. There's a lot of differences. So wiper blades, when they start shattering on your glass in the summer, or in the winter,
I always thought that all-season tires
Mm-hmm.
were good at both winter and summer.
well,
But
they're
it's kind
fair.
of the opposite, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
they're
it's
fair at winter and summer. What happens
They're
is
even.
you lose a compromise because your tire compound needs to be soft enough that it remains flexible in the wintertime. Imagine a garden hose. You pick it up and go, I should put this away. It's not quite frozen yet, but it's really stiff, or an extension cord. You get those that are made for winter, they're made out of a different compound, and they're still flexible when it gets down below 40, 50 degrees. You need that in order to grip the road. That's where your winter tires come in, and you can still gain a lot of traction and a lot of safety, and an extreme amount of stopping distance is brought down by having a winter tire. And then in the summer, if you're trying to use those winter tires with that softer compound and you're in heavy rain, you can get more hydroplaning. So there is a difference. You know, if you want to go with an all-season tire, all-season in the summer and a winter tire in the winter, those are important things to look at. Not everybody can afford or has the place to store tires, but if you can, that's the ultimate way to go. But if you don't, look at your all-season. You know, your all-season is going to be your second best choice.
Yeah, I'd say for the majority of our listeners are going to be just fine with an all-season tire.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't go out and try to push the elements. In most parts of the country, they've gotten so good about snow removal that if you just wait a little bit, typically.
Your car will completely rust out and you won't have to drive it anymore.
Yeah. But it's usually okay. But there's times where you have to get somewhere before they've done that side street. They've done the primary route and they haven't done the secondary route. And that's where you're going to really see the difference.
Freezing rain.
Yeah, you're going to see the difference when you have a designed tire for those elements. Big time. For sure, Russ. That's so important.
And the price, sometimes the cheapest tire you can get, depending on where you're going, what store you're going to, is actually one of the better ones. I've had people say, well, don't you have something a little better? Like, well, here's a $190 tire. Used to be a $100 tire.
Yeah,
remember?
exactly.
Here's a $190 tire, and here's a $250 tire. So you go, well, I'll just go with the one that's a little better. There's, in between those two, there's like zero difference in a lot of cases. But then if you go way up to the very best thing you can find, it may be a minimal change. There's really not a lot. And look at the mileages on tires. A lot of companies are not guaranteeing mileage anymore. They're giving you an average of what you should be getting, because we find we have a lot of customers that are on rural routes. They're on 2 miles of gravel to their house every day, 2 miles home, 4 miles a day, every day, 300 days a year. It's like sandpaper on your tires. It'll just grind them right off. And you can lose about, if it's a 60,000-mile tire, you might get 25, 30,000 miles out of it just because of the gravel you drive on every day. So that therefore, just like batteries, they don't guarantee them like they used to and give you, well, if you didn't make it 60,000 miles, we're going to prorate your tire. Now they just say, well, that's your expected life in a lot of them.
It is weird how, and I still don't know why. Sometimes I get 20,000 less out of a tire or 30,000 less than I expect. And then other times, we had a time not too long ago where I needed tires, and I was at 90,000 miles on the tires, and they were still okay.
Yeah.
It was getting time to change.
It's and here's a trick if by the manufacturers, but it's real. We had a discussion with a tire company that we worked with a couple years ago, and we asked them right out. You remember, Chris? We said, "Hey, why do your brand of tires, when they're on a car, brand new from the manufacturer, seem to wear out so fast? Is there something wrong with the tire? Or do they make them different? Anything?" Like I said, what do they do? Put half the tread on them that they do when you buy one in the store? And they said, well, yeah.
Yeah.
I said, what do you mean? They said, yeah, it specifies 12-30 seconds when we sell you a brand new tire, and when they buy them from us, they say we want a tire with 8-30 seconds, and we sell it to them at a discounted price. And it's like it's like when you buy a new printer and they give you the ink cartridge in it, and it's not a full ink cartridge. It's just enough to give you a little taste of what a genuine HP ink cartridge works like.
He explained it. He said what it is if the manufacturer is going to buy 1 million tires from us, and they can save 15% on each tire by cutting the tread down, that's what they
And
order.
for me, when I get a new vehicle, if I got a new vehicle, I would want to pick my tires. I don't have that ability when I go in. If I go in and buy a brand new Suburban today, I don't get to choose my tires, not exactly by brand. It comes with what it comes with. Probably the Firestones, I think, on a lot of those now. It used to be Goodyear on a lot of the GM cars.
Different brands change
So
around.
you get the tire that it came with. Well, if you don't really like it, in about a year you get to or less, you get to choose what tire you want to equip your vehicle with, which is kind of nice. It would be great if you could just pick your tires when you got there, but now it's just hard enough to get a vehicle.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150.
Participate in the show by visiting underthehoodshow.com.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. We talked about Universal Technical Institute a little bit ago. That is, as we get into this season of graduations and college and things, great idea if you're finishing high school and you don't know what you want to do, or you're maybe in the middle of something and you don't know what you want to do. Universal Technical Institute's a great place to look.
Yeah, uti.edu. So many things to learn when you're getting ready to work on cars. It's very hard to just jump into a shop and learn it. And if you're expecting to, make a decent income and really make something of yourself, you need that training. Things go up and down. There's changes in the market, and there's times where there'll be a lot of employees. There'll be times when there'll be few employees, and things will shift and adjust for it. But if you think that now, well, I'm just graduating now, I'll be fine, I don't need any kind of training because, anybody will hire me, everybody's looking for workers and things like that. Well, maybe you're 18, maybe you're 20, 3-4 years from now, if the thing is that shops are getting 2 or 3 people a day knocking on the door, they're not going to hire you unless you know what you're doing. They always choose the best from what's in the pool.
And what's your tiebreaker going to be is what our assistant manager Benji always says to some young people. He said, what's your tiebreaker going to be? If there's 2 or 3 people asking about the same thing, what do you have as a tiebreaker?
That's a good way to look at it.
I went to Universal Technical Institute, uti.edu, and that's all you got to say. Good to go.
And it's a field I've known you now for 20 years, and it doesn't seem to me that when you have an opening, you have so many people. I mean, it's not an easy field to fill spots, even at any time.
Even when you're looking for people actively, you don't just take the first person and say, "Nah, you're not going to work." You don't have any experience for this.
And it seems to me that it's one of those jobs that's always, if you are qualified, you will always have a job to go get. It's always there's always people looking for someone who can do this job.
Exactly.
UTI.edu. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Abigail in Florida. Abigail, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
I would like to buy a car that is in good condition. I like a new car, but I can't afford a new car. So a good used car in good condition, reasonably priced that will fit my pocketbook.
Such a broad question.
Not your year, Abigail.
Yeah, it's such a broad question,
Well-
but yet it's a good question that we want to always give people our hoodies. We want to give them some general understanding of things you can do to help yourself. Now, of course, one of our sponsors we talk about often is Autotempest.com. You can go to Autotempest.com/hoodie, and if someone can, yourself, or if you got someone that can help you, or if you need that help, go to that website, and it kind of brings a bunch of car searches all into one place.
It even brings Facebook Marketplace in there. If you go through all down to the bottom, if you went to Facebook, you can only search by a maximum of 500 miles around you. But with Autotempest.com/hoodie, it will search all of the Facebook Marketplace. So you get not only the new cars, like you're saying, I'd like to buy a new car, but I can't. You also get the private cars and all the way down to the ones that are on Facebook Marketplace that somebody may have listed for a reasonable price. And when I'm searching through there, I have been able to find, I've had some people at church and things that were looking for cars, and they said, look, my budget is $3,500. And I went, that's hard, really hard. So
that's important too on Autotempest.com/hoodie. You can put in your budget. You can go to advanced search and put in what you're thinking of, and you'll see what's available. That's
and
a
once
major.
you find a car, though, here's the
that's
thing.
exactly
find
right.
it by you.
To me, that's a source to help you find the car. But now, what do you do?
Yeah.
Right.
No, we don't want you to get a car if you're telling us you can't afford a lot. Well, we don't want you to get a really cheap car that needs a lot of work. You're not going to be able to afford that either. You might as well just buy a more expensive car that doesn't need the repairs. But once you get it, it's very important to get somebody to inspect that. The best thing would be to have a shop do a pre-purchase car inspection on it. It's going to cost $100 to $200 usually to go through one and really check it out thorough and make sure it looks really nice. And they'll catch everything they can. But in the lower end, and maybe even depending on the person looking at it, get somebody, if you've got a friend or family member that knows about cars, that they can put their hands on it and look it over thoroughly. Sometimes even just somebody who's a decent mechanic, if they open the hood, they can say, hey, I see some warning signs here.
One of the things we mentioned on a previous episode, of course, we've talked before in the past for people, a vehicle history report is step one. And that's something that you can do quite affordably nowadays. The brand name that you're always going to hear about is Carfax. They cover a good majority of the vehicles in the country, but just realize they will never, I hate using the word never, but they'll never cover all the vehicles. Just because of the logistics, how things go through DMV records.
That's a pretty good bet. Never.
They're not going to cover all the vehicles. So, but that history report's going to tell you, okay, this vehicle's been in this area for a long time. The miles are sequential. It adds up. It looks normal. There's no salvage history, and if there is, I need to inspect that to find out what happened to it. But some advice I gave somebody on a show recently, and it just came out of my mouth without even thinking about it, but if you're looking at a vehicle that happens to be in another market and you don't mind traveling to go get it, because traveling is a distance, but it's not hard. You need to go
Just
get a
takes
vehicle.
time.
It just takes time. Take a weekend, go get something. It's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things. Look for a mobile mechanic service in that area and call them up and ask them, say, can I hire you for an hour's labor to go over and look at this vehicle? And just tell me what you see. Because somebody with a good mobile mechanic service is going to be keen to, all right, this is the suspension connected to the unibody. I don't see any structural rust. Or they might open the hood and look at the underneath body and say, oh, this car has been in an accident and it has not been repaired properly. The end of the frame horn is still pretty ugly looking. It kind of scares me about what alignment issues we might have or what's going on here, because it doesn't look like it's been fixed right. Or they might look at it and say, this car's been fixed. Paint job's not that good, but structurally it looks wonderful. Mechanically, it seems really solid. If you can get a good price on it because the paint's not perfect on the front end, I think it's a good car. So you have every degree of what you're going to come up with, and there could be something like, this is really a cherry. You need to buy this. That's
Right.
the type of things that you're going to run across. And in today's market, you got to strike quick.
It is, Abigail, you have a daunting task ahead of you because you have to find out and the big thing is lately, the money that you plan on doesn't buy as much car as it did 3 years ago.
You got to be ready to strike fast.
Yeah.
So
Good luck, Abigail. Thanks very much for the call. I will never forget the very first time I ever saw you do a used car inspection, Russ, and this was back when I don't even know if I was on this show yet, but you did a used car inspection for someone I worked with, and you brought the car, you looked at the car, and you said, okay, this car has had major damage, and it's good. It's great. It's completely repaired correct. I would buy this car. And that was a time I was like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I guess. That was the first time I'd ever been faced with, if you repair it right, it's fine. But that's what you're looking for, is that it was repaired right.
That's for sure. I like the way you put that, Chris. It's not that cars are more expensive these days. It's that your money is worth less.
That's one way to say it.
Yeah.
866-594-4150. Let's go to Idaho and talk to Clark. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Clark, what can we do for you?
Well, good morning. Well, I got a 99 GMC 3/4 ton Safari, and the truck was given to me by a real old close friend. The problem I'm having, when I drive down the road for the first time in the morning, I don't usually have to hit the brakes until I hit the stop sign at the end of the street, and I'll just start to apply the brakes, and all of a sudden, wham, it pulses real hard, hits the brakes real hard, and then leaves off, And if I keep my foot on it, it'll do it again. But then if I pump the brakes a couple times, like before I leave my yard, it works fine. And now it's starting to do something where I start it up, it dies. But if I pump my brakes, it'll start up and everything will be fine. And I'm going to start towing a little camp trailer with it, and I'm a little worried about that. So I don't know what it's doing.
I'm worried about it too, Clark.
I want to identify the truck just a little bit further. It's a 99 GMC 3/4 ton Sierra.
Yeah, Sierra.
Okay, and so is it got a gas motor like a 6.0 liter, or is it an older style with a 454 or something like that?
It's got the 454 gas heater.
All right, so it's a classic
And
body style
each
99
gas.
The
Sierra.
hydraulic brake booster.
Yeah, yep.
Accumulator. Yeah, it sounds like what you're describing, where you pump it a couple times and it's fine. That's kind of the addition that we need to hear in there. It sounds like that there's a problem in that hydraulic brake booster on there with the hydroboost, and it's probably with the accumulator specifically. But that can be replaced, and it's not very expensive and not very hard to do. It's an hour or so to change it out.
Boy, that's my favorite words today.
Yeah, cheap.
Yeah.
Your money will go further.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can I buy a used one, or do you
Sure.
recommend a new one?
As long as it's not leaking, they typically work. It's very rare that they fail in the way that yours has, but they can fail. If you're turning the steering wheel and you feel something weird in the steering wheel at the same time, could have a problem with the pump too, with the power steering pump. But when you say you step on the brakes a couple times, that's usually not a pump thing. That's usually in that brake booster. But we've had a few of those brake boosters fail over the years and do just what yours is doing. If you step
Did
on it a
all of
couple
the
times.
3/4 ton, even the gassers, have the hydro boost on them in that year, Russ?
Some of them were either or.
Because
You
in
had
some
to
of them they
ask.
just had vacuum brakes
Yeah.
on the gas motor trucks. So you need to look at
you
that
open
system.
the hood, you'll see if it's got that giant can back there with a rubber vacuum hose going to it. It's vacuum, but I'll bet it's got to be hydraulic with a 454.
It should be, but have you looked under your hood to be that specific back where the brake setup is at? Is if it's got the big?
Yeah, it doesn't have the vacuum boost on it, the big can, because that's the first thing I thought. But no, it doesn't have the big can on it.
So
Is this a four-door truck?
It's two-door, but
Two-door. Is
kind
it
of like the extended cab.
Is it the old body style or the newer body style?
It's the old with a
Because
454.
a 454, it should
it'd be the old body style.
Yeah, so that's 88 through 98, and then
He's
they
got the
had
last year.
99 and 2000.
Yep, we're getting to the last year of it.
Yeah,
Yep, so that
yeah,
booster's
because I
got
kept
an
going
issue.
online. I kept going online trying to because I'm also redid the headlights, so all four headlights come on. For the dim and the high beams.
Uh-huh.
And on YouTube, I couldn't find a 99 that had that style unless it
Look at a
was in
98.
Suburban.
Yeah, just drop back a little bit. Like Russ has got. What year is yours, Russ?
6.
Yeah, 96 is the same setup on his truck as that 99, that hydro boost setup. So
Clark, thank you very much for the call. Good luck. I was just looking at pictures of the 99 GMC, the old style and the new style. It is funny because the old style looks like a good old truck, classic truck, and the new style looks like an old truck. It's not cool looking yet.
Well, it wasn't a big move like Ram made when they redesigned
Right.
or anything like that, but it was quite different.
It looks like square glass headlights, and then to the plastic kind of wraparound headlights
no.
is the.
Quite a bit of difference overall
Yeah.
in that truck, but a lot the same too. You're right.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show. 866-594-4150. 866-594-4150. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search, Autotempest.com/hoodie. This is the Under the Hood Show. Now let's go to Illinois and talk to Justin. Justin, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, fellas.
Oh, you're, hold on a second, Justin. We're going to put you back on hold there. Maybe try and call back because your cell went away there for a second. So I'm going to put you on hold, and you might want to just try back. 866-594-4150. Let's talk to Brad. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Brad, what can we do for you?
I have a 2015 Nissan Rogue, and like just sporadically at a stop sign, it'll just lose all power into the gas pedal. It'll just be dead. Put it all the way to the floor, and it does nothing. And you can shut it off, turn it right back on, and it'll just be completely normal again. And then maybe half hour later, it might do it again. Might not do it for 2 days. Any inkling what that would be?
Yeah, so that's got electronic throttle pedal in it, and it sounds like you're losing a connection in there. If you have a throttle pedal or a throttle body failure, it will alert the computer and it will shut off your throttle if you're at a stop speeds for safety. It says, hey, we can't control this. We don't want the chance of it
Going rogue.
Yeah.
Hey,
Oh my. So when you shut the key off and restart it, if it doesn't see that failure when you're cranking it and it fires up for that first time again to take off, then it'll work. So hopefully it would have a code in there set as a pending code. If you're able to scan it when it died, you'd be able to see it, and hopefully you'd be on a side street or something so you could look around and say, no cars, let's check this. Let's check it real quick before we take off, rather than sitting in the intersection while everybody's honking at you going, get out of the way. I'll bet it's going to come up with some kind of a code like you've got a APP, which would be accelerator pedal position, or TP, throttle position, something like that. That's probably what's going on.
Is that relatively inexpensive?
If it's a throttle pedal, I'd say that's relatively inexpensive. You could go to find yourself a U-Pull-It yard or go to car-part.com and order a throttle pedal up and used. I'd say it's probably going to be around the $100 range. Brand new, it's probably around the $500-600 range, But you don't want that. You want to use one because this is a rarity that any electric throttle pedal fails.
But I wouldn't just go buy one until you've actually had somebody hook up to it.
Exactly,
make
because
sure.
you don't know which part it is, and if you throw $100 on this and it doesn't fix it, then $100 on this and it doesn't fix it, and then the actual fix was $150. Well, you're behind to $50.
And we're making an assumption here that this is a true dead pedal feel and not something else in the tune of the engine.
It could be just not accelerating, that's a whole different story. But if it is not turning the engine RPM up, it could definitely be in the throttle system.
Brad, good luck. 866-594-4150. Let's try Justin again in Illinois. Justin, are you there?
Hey, good morning, guys. Sorry about that. Not my morning for technical stuff today.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah. Again, Wednesday. Thanks for doing the show. I'm another Car Talk refugee, so send one up to
Thank
Tom
you.
and Ray.
Awesome.
Got a 2004 Chevy Blazer ZR2. That's not important, but it's just fun to say. Lost some coolant miraculously and mysteriously. This has been maybe a month ago now. I was about to go on a trip night before, and 200-mile round trip, nothing crazy, but night before, went and checked all fluids. Noticed for the first time ever in the coolant reservoir that it was pretty low, like you could see it in there, almost down in the neck. So, popped it up. I didn't see anything. There's no puddles. There's nothing in the passenger footwell, which I had the great foresight to check. So anyway, all good. Now this is, again, up in our Midwest winter. It was a little chillier back then. So I'm in my drive. I figure, I'm going to be cautious. Maybe 6 miles into that first half, I pulled over, had dropped some more coolant. So I popped it back up again from the reservoir, finished out my trip fine. Ever since then, it's been fine. And I actually had into the shop for something else in the interim, asked him to take a look, check all the tube hoses, connections, all that stuff. He said he didn't find anything. Talked to a buddy of mine who'd recommended maybe try a radiator cap. I guess he's thinking maybe the spring could give and it could just lose coolant via steam or something like that. I've since gotten cap, I don't think it's really giving me any new information at this point. Again, that was like quite a bit later after the coolant had leveled off. Now, here's a new piece of information I just got yesterday. It was really chilly in the morning yesterday. I had to go for a drive, kicked on the heat for the first time in a while, and it was not really getting hot on me. Not
Low
getting
on
hot like
coolant.
it should.
Yeah.
It was getting warm. Yeah.
Yeah, you get some air in there when it's low. Those Blazers have a hard time heating.
What? Just as throwing some thoughts here.
Turned it off.
How many
Yeah.
gallons of antifreeze or how much antifreeze have you added across the time of it?
Total.
Total, more than a quart.
Okay.
Maybe, it's hard to say because I had a big, jug of 50/50. I probably had about a quart in there, and that's all gone. I bought a new one. I think I put a little less than a quart of that in, and this was mostly in that first drive where, I just lost all this coolant seemingly. I haven't had to put any more in there since, and I've done a fair amount of driving. I've done that same drive of, again, about 200 miles round trip again since then. No trouble, but the heat was not running in that time. I don't know if that's going to be a factor.
No, it shouldn't. We would, if we were looking at this, I'd look at it really close for coolant leaks, both under the car and over the top and on a hoist. Look at the block plugs. They call them, frost plugs in some cases, but the block plugs around the water pump area, all the hoses, the heater core area where it drips out for the air conditioner drain. Make sure there's no antifreeze coming out of that, which would indicate a heater core failure. And if you just can't find anything on there, you put a radiator cap on it if it's pushing some out and not retrieving it. There could be some issues going on there, and it's always good just put a cap on there. Anyways, I mean they're just a maintenance item, but you might try some K-Seal in there if you absolutely can't find a mechanical leak that's small that you can fix. It could have a gasket or a seal that's just got a tiny little leak, and when it's cold, it drips a little out, and then it goes away, and you don't see it. But keep an eye on it.
I'm going to say that if Justin were losing it out the cap via steam, he would know.
Oh,
because
typically.
He's
onto it.
And if you don't, and we've said this many times, if you don't see it on the ground, you can't find it on the chassis of the vehicle, you can't really smell it anywhere externally, like it's hitting a heat source, it's internally chewing it up somewhere.
And that's where I'm thinking about the K-Seal.
Yeah.
If you can't see it, unless you wanted to tear the whole thing down and try to rebuild it and find out where it's at. And I'm guessing no.
Is there a check you can do
I don't
see if
think
it's
a
in the-
cylinder head gasket test is really going to reveal anything in this case. I mean, you could try it. It's a pretty cheap test, but you can
Hydrocarbon test, they're
see
going
if there's exhaust gases in there, because when you say you've got some heater things going on, it's very slight, but possible there could be some interference in there with gases taking up that room.
As quick as we can do it, I do want to talk about the ZR2. Quick.
You got 10 seconds.
Wide body, what color? Is it red?
No, it's the pewter and rust highlights.
Okay, all right.
Rust highlights. I like that.
That'll do it for this hour of the Under the Hood Show. Hour 2 is coming up. The Under the Hood Show is brought to you by Sturtevant's.
Now, let's go under the hood with the Nordstrom's Motor Medics.
Welcome to the Under the Hood Show. We are glad to have you with us from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Russ Evans is here to answer your automotive questions.
Hey, thanks for joining us under the hood.
Shannon Nordstrom is here to do the same.
Welcome, hoodies. Thanks for tuning in so we can help you tune up.
I'm Chris Carter, here to answer your calls at 866-594-4150. As we were getting ready and the music was playing, we had calls lined up, so let's get right to those, because that's what we want to do. That's our main focus.
It's our goal here.
Let's talk to Jeff. Jeff, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Okay, yeah, good morning, guys. Thanks for taking my call. First of all, I just want to mention I bought a car up and sold it to Doug the other day, my old Silhouette, and it was such an easy transaction. You guys have a nice facility there.
Well, thank you
It's a
very
pleasure
much.
working with you
Appreciate
guys.
that.
A Silhouette.
Yep. But what I have today, it's a 2002 old Silhouette. But anyway, I drove it up, but what I have a question on is a 2018 Chrysler Pacifica, and it calls for 36 pounds of air, and I usually run it about 37, because sometimes I carry some stuff in it. But now, in the last few days when it got hot, it's been up to like 40 pounds, or maybe 41 when it was real hot. So I back the pressure down for that, or is that bad?
You want to set the tire pressure cold, and cold means before you drive it out on the road, because then it'll warm up. So cold might be 100 degrees outside. Cold might be 30 degrees outside. So, yeah, you need to adjust
It was about 50 degrees the other day, so it was about 37 at 50.
Yeah,
and
you've got to go by what the average is going to be. If you get up in the morning and it's going to be 50 degrees, all day, if it's pretty steady temp all day, then yeah, you can set your tire pressure. I mean, they don't mean for you to adjust it every time the temperature changes, but yes, if you're
Seasonally, you have to adjust.
If this week it's going to be in the 50s and you've adjusted your tire pressure at 35 pounds and it's around 50s, you're fine. But when it starts getting up into the 80s regularly every day, you need to make sure that pressure is adjusted because it can drop quite a bit in the winter and go up in the summer.
And that's where the people that do the nitrogen and stuff that's where that comes into play.
Very little fluctuation in nitrogen versus regular.
How come we don't hear about nitrogen as
It
much
got
anymore?
pretty quiet.
Because
Yeah.
everybody uses it.
It's just normal now.
It's just
It
normal.
only goes up like 4 pounds, so it's not too bad.
Yeah, and
I
with
didn't think it was pushing
nitrogen, it's going to stay pretty steady.
And that's what they do in racing, series when they adjust that air pressure down to 1/4 of an inch to get the setup they're looking for. They're doing that with nitrogen because they are generating so much difference in temperature as they force that on the road. And well, you look at drag cars. I love watching the tires grow on them when they do their burnouts.
That's just the spinning force.
Yeah, the force of that. But the pressures in those tires are changing a lot also as they go through that. It's kind of crazy.
He does bring up a good question now because we've had days where it's 49 in the morning and 90 in the afternoon. What do you do then?
Set it cold.
Well, you wait for the giant storm that comes after it drops back down to 60.
Yeah, then it's right back there.
But set it
at-
at the morning temperature, and it'll be fine. Even if it expands a little bit, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
And you're going to find that next day it's going to be pretty much back to where it should be.
Jeff, thanks very much for the call.
Ideally, people would check their tire pressure every time they filled with fuel.
Mm-hmm. I do.
If that's once a day or once a month.
I'm
That's,
glad you made that face when you said that because
That'd be the ideal time.
I was going to
but
throw the
people
flag
don't-
on you.
I mean, come on. If people don't change their oil until they're 8,000 miles over, you really think they're even going to look at a tire until they're? I bet.
Why
I
are you
would make
staring
it
at
a
me?
safe bet that most people never ever check their tire pressure unless the light comes on and dings on the dash, or they look at it and go, "Huh, my tire looks low."
Yeah.
Pretty safe bet.
The system on my pickup
Totally safe.
does allow me to toggle through with my steering wheel control and see the 4 air pressures.
Have you ever checked it to see if it's accurate?
Not for a while.
Okay.
But I do use that. I'll just toggle through everything every once in a while and just look at it. But if I didn't have that, there is not a chance that I would be checking.
Right.
Now-
Mine goes green or red. If it's over or under, it turns red now.
Okay.
Yellow and
Okay.
red. It goes
Yeah.
green, yellow, red. And it was like 4 pounds off the other day, and it said yellow. And I had just put some tires on it. And I went, what's going on there?
Let's invent a TPM system that beeps at the tire. Then people would check it, right? I mean,
Oh,
if
the
you were
tire
walking
itself
out,
is
yeah, you
beeping?
were walking out. If your tire was going beep 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 beep,
That might be doable.
let's go to New
Might
York.
just giving away another $1 million idea.
Let's go to New York and talk to David. David, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Thanks for taking my call.
You bet.
In October, my alternator died, and I had a new one put on. And recently, it got quite warm here in New York, so I wanted to get my air conditioning going, and I turned it on, and it wasn't working so hot. So I took it to get it refilled because it really wasn't working very good before, because I cheap and I didn't want to get it fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And,
I know that. I know that feeling.
It was working well enough, I guess.
Right.
I took it and I got it filled, and they were telling me they recommended a test with dye in it to see if it was leaking, and I said, sure, that sounds like a good idea. And they filled it, but they couldn't get the compressor to turn on. Is that the right term I'm using?
Yeah.
Compressor?
Yep.
Okay, and they put it up and they're looking at it, and they told me whoever put on the alternator broke a connection on my compressor.
Oh boy.
It's probably the connection
electrical?
behind the clutch.
Yeah, there's a clutch on there, and yeah, it's a possibility when you're taking that alternator off. You gotta pry under it a little bit to get it to pop out of the mount, and if you're not careful, you could pry on that, or you could lean on that, or it's if it worked last year and it didn't work this year, and there was an alternator worked on, it probably was broken off during the job. That sounds plausible. I mean, if you came back to
Okay.
me and said, "Hey, you guys just worked on this," if it was anywhere close in the general area, I'd say, "Yeah, it's likely." If it's on the other side of the engine, I'm going to say, "No, look, this is over here. This is over here. Go away. I'm not going to help you." But if it's in that same area right there, it'd be like, "Yeah, we probably broke it. We'll fix it." It's not a huge deal.
Some vehicles you can pull a clutch in the vehicle and replace it with the electromagnetic switch, on the back of it. Other vehicles, you've got to take the compressor out and on the bench either replace the clutch or get another compressor.
Yeah.
But do you know what it is on that one, Russ?
I don't know if you can replace that clutch or not because I can't. We have replaced a few of those because the clutches had failed and shorted and burnt the computer out. So we had to put a computer in them. I think we had to put a whole compressor on them because the clutch was not
serviceable.
Yeah.
Because some of them, they're common enough, the aftermarket and others will come up with a clutch availability.
Yeah.
Say, here's the tool, here's the clutch. You can pull that off, you can fix that. And other ones, they say, you know what, we're not gonna invest the energy or the money to make that. It's just buy another compressor. So, and there's times too where, and I've done this, the plug gets broken such a way that it won't stay snapped by the factory plug-in.
Right.
Right.
But yet you can get the terminals on, you can get it to touch, and you could use some silicone
Yeah, they might be able to fix it.
and get it to hold in place
Okay.
just fine. Makes a good connection. You get it waterproof with some silicone and still be able to make it work.
As long as they can get the two wires attached to the compressor and put some sealer on it to keep it from corroding, yeah, it'll be just fine. I mean, there's really no need to replace the entire compressor as long as they can get it connected.
If they can get it connected.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I would give a call back to the shop that worked on it and see if they'd be willing to
And
work with you a little bit.
And if I'm calling you, am I presenting it like David, right?
Yeah, you just say,
this
"Hey,
happened,
guys, I had my alternator worked on 6 months ago, and noticed now it's warm out. The AC doesn't work, so the shop looked at it to fix the AC and said, hey, the connectors broke off. We see you got a new alternator. Maybe it has something to do with that because it looked like it got
Don't
bent.
start with
Could
you
check it
broke
out?
my alternator.
Yeah, could you check it out?
Yeah. David, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. 866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the Under the Hood Show.
Car feeling ill? Don't want to spread it to your wallet? Call the Motor Medics now for free advice.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search, Autotempest.com/hoodie. This is the Under the Hood Show. I have a better idea. First, we're going to make the tire pressure sensor that beeps when it's low to let you know. And then we're going to make a replacement that is silent. So when people get the ones that beep, they can replace it with our other ones that don't beep.
And you're going to own the market on both of
Yeah,
them.
I got them both.
They'll
'Cause
just flash.
It'll seem like a good idea when it warns you that your tire's low until it
Flash,
starts
Russ,
beeping.
that's better.
Yeah, next
Yeah.
they're going to make one that flashes.
That's better.
So that when the police see you go by with a flashing,
Yep.
they can pull you over and give you a ticket for driving with low tire pressure.
And then we create one that doesn't flash anymore. I think we're onto something.
Yeah, it'll
here.
vibrate.
more than a million.
It'll vibrate your butt. That would be a new thing. Your seat could just vibrate when something goes on, right?
They could vibrate when the blinkers are on yet.
It tells you when you're
Running
lane
off the road.
drifting. Let's talk to Wyatt. You're on the End of the Hood Show. Wyatt, what can we do for you?
Good morning, gentlemen. I have a 2008 Chevrolet Avalanche. The right rear door lock will not lock using the remote or the door button. Now, it will lock, but it will not unlock. What happens is you can unlock it manually, and if you hit the unlock button either on the door or the remote, it'll just drop just a little bit. If you hit it a couple more times, it'll continue to drop until it relocks, even though you're hitting the unlock button. Replace the actuator in it 3 times, 1 with the Dorman and 2 from Amazon. I'm at a loss.
Yeah, because our first thing we would have typically sent you towards was that it's an electronic integrated latch, and they do fail, for sure. That's usually on those types of trucks and Silverados and Sierras and everything else. That is very common. But with an 08 Avalanche, if you've replaced those, there's just not we talk about this all the time. There's not a chance that you're getting that many bad parts. You know,
Wouldn't think so.
Especially the dormant part, because we sell a lot of those ourselves, and there's just not a failure rate on them. It just doesn't happen. Do any of them do anything different?
No, all of them do exactly the same. Even the original one, it's actually my son's truck, and we're working on it over the phone, 1,000 miles apart. But the first one was doing the same thing, so he ordered one from Amazon, and I sold dormant products for 48 years. So I told him, I said, quit using junk, go buy a dormant. So he bought a dormant. It did the same thing. So then he went back to Amazon and bought actually a third one, and it still does the exact same thing.
Russ, what do you think? He's over there drawing diagrams.
That could be their slogan. Quit buying junk. Buy dormant.
That is great. It's good and straight to the point. So this vehicle, since it's 08,
he has a whole diagram.
He
I
does.
got the whole thing
I
here.
thought, are those fallopian
CAN
tubes?
bus
What do you got
and
going on there?
modules on each door, and then I forgot the action. There's an actuator here, like
You should hang that up let the camera see that diagram.
That's an actuator, not an exclamation point.
Yeah,
See that?
I think that's the female reproductive system. I'm pretty sure.
This is not. This is a quality diagram right here. See, you could zoom in. You could see it on YouTube. There you go. Anyways, there should be a module in each door on an 08, if I remember right.
Yeah, 07 up.
Yeah. So what would happen? You'd have if it was older, like an 04, you would have one module. You'd have a driver's door unlock, and then your passenger door unlocks would be your both rear doors and your passenger front. But when you've got a module type system like this, you've got a module in each door with a CAN bus running them. So that's going to run the speaker in the door, the light in the door, the window in the door, the lock in the door. And if you've got just one that's going unlock when it's supposed to go lock, or lock instead of unlock, I'm betting that's what's going on. When you've got the modules in the door, you find them right behind the door panel. You pull the door panel off, and it should be right in that lower front above the speaker area. So if you've got that, it's likely that is what is going on, because he's getting a signal for
Could
lock.
he swap a module from the other rear door?
No. So
That was
here's what
I
happens.
got scolded.
Yeah.
So some of them you can put like a right rear and a left rear door, and I've seen that happen. I don't know if you can do it on this one. I've never tried it, but we did it on a Cadillac once. We had to put two of them in. It was lightning damage, and they were reversed. And when you hit the right rear down button on the master switch, the left rear would go down. They were backwards.
Well, it's like right now, we mentioned off the air that I've got a tire leak, and last time the tires got rotated, they never changed the
Reset.
location. So it says I've got a right front that's low, and it's actually my right rear.
Yeah. So look at that and see if it's got a module in that door. I'm bet you had it apart enough. You may have seen it up there in that front corner there.
Can he go to a U-Pull-It and get one? Or is it going to be...
You could go to dormanproducts.com
there you
and get
go.
one, because if you buy one of those, you don't buy junk. And that's
it.
right from
There's-
his
yeah.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, I would...
Doesn't need to be programmed or anything?
Well, a lot of the dormant stuff is what they call plug and play now. So what they've done is they've made it a programmable read-only memory, but it's blank until it's plugged into the car, and then it learns whatever's in the car.
And
and
they've
goes.
got a whole line of sophisticated electronics that they sell.
Some has to be programmed,
Yeah,
but most of it is just plug it in and go. But how do you test that? You would need a factory level type scan tool, or a nice snap-on one or something. And some of the Altels will do it too, and you read and see, do I have a lock signal? Yes. Do I have an unlock signal? Yes. Is it doing something it's not supposed to, and I have good power and ground? It's junk. If you
At the risk of being scolded again, if he took the one out of the other door and put it in there, it would not work right, but it would
Shame on you.
Would at least show him that it made a difference.
Locks and unlocks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
If it plugs in, but it may not even
Yeah.
plug in. A lot of them have different connector, but some of them, if it's the same connector, go for it. Shouldn't really.
But if they're talking long distance and they're trying to solve something,
Well, you could get the door lock to lock and unlock.
You're not
I'd
gonna-
be okay with that. I mean, we do that with body control modules sometimes. When we know the car won't start, but we want to check and see if the fog lights work, we just plug a used one in that's not coded for that car and go, oh, look, the lights work. Mm-hmm. And we're fine. So
it's just a thought.
You could try it.
Little self-diagnosis.
Okay.
Also check for broken wires
Yes.
in the door jamb on that passenger right rear, because if you've got a CAN bus wire that's starting to get shorted in there or a power wire, it's going to do all sorts
Which
of
would be unusual on a rear door unless you're in and out of it all the time, putting a child in a child seat or using that door
Rear
a lot.
doors rarely fail on
Right.
any car.
Wyatt, thanks very much for the call. That's what I was thinking. The answer to this call is
was a
the lock
nice
doesn't-
diagram.
The
I
lock
liked it.
doesn't work. That would be what it was at my house.
I know your answer would be, oh, you can lock it manually?
Yeah,
It's okay.
it's fixed. It's fine. Reach
Leave
back
it,
there.
leave it locked.
Back when I was a kid, we had to reach all the way across to unlock the car.
Don't you remember I love those little chrome door lock tops with
Would
the
screw them off.
Oh,
and
all the
my
time.
parents would be
Look
like,
like
what
a
happened
little-
to the door lock knob? Oh.
little chrome water tower.
Yep.
You know?
That's what got me going into
Mechanics.
things when I was a kid. My my little episode was for things like that, chromies and.
I took everything apart when I was a kid.
Yeah.
No matter what it was, I got it and I started taking it apart.
Yep.
And I liked radio, so my brother's car had no knobs on the radio, and he was mad.
I still remember when my dad went to start the lawnmower one day and it just went. He's like, what the heck is going on? And I had taken the cylinder head off, the 5 little bolts, half inch. I just wanted to see what it looked like.
That's
Let's
awesome.
talk to Paul. Paul, you're on the Under the Hood show. What can we do for you?
Well, I got a semi under the hood question. I guess it's an oil related question. I've got a very large portable generator that we use, and when we run it, 8, 12, sometimes 16 hours at a time straight, and it calls for 30 weight oil. And in my mind, synthetic's always better all the time, and so I'm like, I'm going to convert this over to synthetic. So this weekend I went out looking, and I went to 4 auto parts stores. I went to Walmart. I went to where, and nobody's got 30 weight, straight 30 weight synthetic. I've got to go to like a 530 or a 1040 or I was able to find one. I think they called it purple or something that was on Amazon. That was a straight 30,
Royal
but I've
purple.
never heard of them. So I was like, I don't know if that's something that's just like Chinese stuff that they're shipping in here that's no good. I don't know.
If it's Royal Purple,
But
no, it's good.
I guess it's good stuff.
Very good.
So the other question was, since it's not readily available most of the places, if I switched over to, I'm using it predominantly always in warm location. I mean, it's always at least 70 or above, sometimes 100. Should I go with a 1040 versus a
Nope.
530?
Does it have an oil filter on it?
No.
Okay, then you don't want to be using a detergent oil, and all those multi-weights are going to be detergent oils typically. That's why they're going with a 30 weight for a small engine. And yes, you can get a synthetic straight 30, but you got to make sure it's a non-detergent for a small engine. Look at the Royal Purple, look at Joe Gibbs Racing Oil, things like that are made for older engines. And then also look on the small engine forums for companies like Generac and different things like that, a lot of generator forums. But yeah, you could go with a better oil, a synthetic oil, but it's got to be that you want to stick with that straight weight so you get the non-detergent and straight.
Paul, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you. The phone number to reach us, 866-594-4150. You're listening to the Under the Hood Show.
Get your planner out right now and schedule your next radio appointment with the Motor Medics.
866-594-4150 from the Autotempest.com studios. All the cars, one search. This is the Under the Hood Show. Now let's go to Pennsylvania and talk to Doug. You're on the Under the Hood Show. Doug, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, I just had a comment more than anything else. I guess it was last. Shannon made a comment. You were talking to a guy with a Suburban that had sucked in a mouse nest or something, and Shannon made a comment about if it could actually get into the cylinder. Well, I just had a story about something getting into the cylinder, which you can actually get into there. So I had a 1986 E43 box truck on the farm that I've had for 30-some years. And this is about 4 years ago. I was coming back from the mountains, like a 4-hour round trip. And I was close to the farm, and all of a sudden, the bap, 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 bap. I thought, oh no, I blew a rod or a piston or something came apart. So I had it towed home and sat for a week or so. And then I finally went out to look at it. and I was talking to my son, and we're like, "What's wrong with it?" I'm like, "I don't know. I got to pull the valve covers and see what's going on." And I went to take the air cleaner off, and the wing nut's sitting on top of the air cleaner, but there's no stud.
Ooh.
And here, I finally end up taking the head off. The stud went down through the carburetor, through the intake manifold, through the valve, into the cylinder, and all was left was shrapnel, melted shrapnel. The cylinder was scratched a little bit. The head was banged up, or the top of the bottom of the head there was banged up a little bit. But I actually just put a hone in it, cleaned it out, put a new head gasket on it, put together, and ran it for another 2 years. And finally just parked it. But you'd be amazed what you can get through into the head cylinder.
We've seen plenty of objects make their way down there, but you just kind of a miracle that it even can happen when you look at what it has to do to get there.
I think you need a hoodie for this great story. We're gonna keep you on the line. Producer Doug over there will take your information.
That's a hoodie-worthy story to think
That
the
is.
entire air cleaner stud made its way into the cylinder.
That's fun. I've seen some crazy stuff get in there.
Well, because if you unscrew that air cleaner stud out of that vehicle, it's
Not
probably,
all of them will go through. Depends on the carburetor type and all that.
I know, but that stud is probably
3 inches
3
long.
inches long.
2 to 3.
Are we close on that guess?
Depends on how thick the air cleaner.
2 3/4 to 3 inches. They're not super long, but so it had the original Holley carburetor on it that I had just replaced about 2 years before that, and I was making an adjustment to the choke, and I think that's when I must not have cranked down enough on that stud or Loctite. I should have Loctited it in.
Well, and that does
But
happen
it's
for
just
people. That
back
it's
to
been a
back.
long time ago, but if you're undoing the stud and you don't realize that the stud's actually coming out instead of the nut loosening up, it just
Right.
it can happen if you don't pay attention. Pretty easy. Well,
Doug-
great story, but your stud story gets a hoodie.
I'm going to put you on hold there, Doug. You stay there. And he gets a hoodie courtesy of our friends at Universal Technical
Universal
Institute.
Technical Institute, UTI.edu, your one place to go for all your training: automotive, car, truck, marine mechanics, welding school, motorcycle mechanics. They'll get you fixed right up.
Would you learn anything about carburetors depending on what you're doing?
Oh,
Probably
very little.
not, huh?
They'll tell you what a carburetor is, but you really don't need to do a lot other than the small engines that would still use some carburetors that are not very old. And I've actually seen some of these now that because they couldn't get certain electronics and stuff, they were putting on some carburetors again. I don't know what's up with that.
Some of the hot rod training, if you get into that
Yeah.
part of it for the restorations and things like that, they might get into that.
Marine, no? Not anymore?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
The older Marines are going to have
Okay.
it, but the new Marine stuff is all going to be fuel injected.
So Doug the Stud gets a hoodie from UTI.
Doug with the lost stud.
Yeah.
866-594-4150. What's caught your attention in the automotive world?
Everything is changing so much. So we're looking at gas prices, and I was just thinking.
Did they go up?
Oh, yeah, they're going up. Where my daughter's out west, they've gone up considerably. It's weird. We had a drop. Did you notice the drop at the pump in our the small town over here?
A little bit.
Yesterday, it dropped a little bit, which is strange because the crude oil price went up, wholesale gasoline went up, and it went up in town. So I'm not sure if that's a gimmick or what, but I don't know. But we're going to see it. That just means it'll go up even higher when it goes. But now they are predicting, because we've got the shortages and all that stuff are in place, right? Boom. They're there. We know what that does. But as summer approaches, it always happens. We drive more in the summer, camping and all that stuff. The reserves are getting lower. The supply is also getting lower, which is it has to drive the
Stop
cost
being
up.
Debbie Downer.
Well, we're gonna push that up more. So as gas prices go up, be very careful of these companies out there that are trying to scam you and rip you off.
Oh, yeah.
The gas stations aren't ripping you off. They're paying you more. They're paying more for the fuel. We know
I mean,
that.
somebody's ripping us off,
There
but
could
it's
be
not
some
the
of it,
guy at the gas station.
Yeah.
Look out.
It's definitely
for
not the
those-
teller.
Right.
Yeah.
I saw somebody giving a heck to that teller the other day. I'm like, what is? No, I don't. I would never want to live with you
No.
because you are a miserable
Right.
person.
So tuners that promise to get you 5 miles to the gallon more by throwing it on your gas vehicle, don't believe it. It's just not going to happen. 5 miles to the gallon just doesn't happen. Now, you may try to drive better and wish you had 5 miles, and maybe you do, because maybe you drove with it to the floor every went, like Shannon, and you get 5 miles per gallon less. And then Chris drives it, and you're like, hey, Your car gets 5 miles. It gets great mileage. It does. You know, it's all in your foot in a lot of cases. So you can think, like Shannon says, of these tuners, you can think you're going to get better mileage. You're going to want it to. It will. Pills that go in the gas tank to make it work better, they do not work. These hydrogen kits that burn, turn your water into hydrogen, no, they don't. If all that stuff worked, the manufacturer would be doing it so they didn't have to spend billions of dollars to try to get cars to get better miles per gallon.
Also, and I think this is very relevant to the everyday listener, don't buy the cheaper gas unless you know what you're doing, right? I mean, we see that all the time. Hey, I put in E85 because it was $1 cheaper. I put in this because it says I need high octane, but I went with the 87 because it was 60 cents, 70 cents cheaper. Don't do that unless you know, right?
If your car is required to run premium fuel, it says premium fuel required right on your instrument cluster there or on your gas cap, and you go put an 87 in it every time for the next 2 years because you're thinking, oh, well,
you will kill your engine.
You're going to have a problem.
Yeah.
It's not made for that. It's like you might as well put diesel fuel in your gas car because it's cheaper or whatever, or the other way, or gasoline or diesel because it's. No, you can't. It's wrong. It will not operate.
And you need to check your owner's manual and see what it says. Because a lot of times people will say, oh, you have this kind of car. You can do that.
Russ,
that might not be the case.
Is there vehicles, I'm just trying to think of all the things I've seen. Is there a vehicle that requires premium that doesn't say it on the vehicle somewhere?
Not that I've ever seen. They all have it either on the gas cap or on the dash.
So most of the time, if it doesn't say premium required.
Recommended. A lot of times they don't put them anywhere.
Right.
But required, yes. It's going to.
It's kind of a rule of thumb. And, and we talk a lot about the like bioethanol and things like that. And there are some good alternatives there to use. I mean, that is one of the best ways that we can bring the cost down for fuel with a great product is with the bioethanol. And so, I've talked about it before, like in ours with 91, I run E30 and it works just fine. It's not what
you need the octane.
I need that octane, and it's got plenty of it, and it works just fine. That's what I run in my vehicle is premium required.
866-594-4150. Let's talk to Jason. You're on the Under the Hood show. Jason, what can we do for you?
Hey guys, love the show. Kind of pull off of your high gas prices and stuff. So I run a construction company, and I recently just bought a 2017 F150 with the Ecoboost with the 3.5 in it, I believe. And just kind of wondering, I know like my wife drives the Acadia with the 3.6, and you basically need to change that oil every 3,000 miles like clockwork. So I'm wondering on that F-150, is as far as oil changes on that, I mean, is it something I can go 5,000 miles on or 3,000 miles on and just kind of...
You mentioned it's a construction
what your guys'
company.
thoughts are.
So this truck in your construction company, how is it going to get used? What's the daily use of this truck?
Basically, I was just a daily driver back and forth from house to the shop, haul stuff in it. I've got a 2018 F350 Power Stroke that I pull trailers with and stuff like that. So
it's like a lot of things we talk about. If you're not out getting that on the road and getting it heated up with regular heat cycles, you're going to have to go with the heavier service oil interchange. You're going to have to ignore the light and
timing chains, turbos, short trips, oil change 3,000 miles.
Yeah.
On this one.
Yeah. It'd be nice if you could stretch it out, but just the way you're going to use it and the type of things you're doing.
If you drove it on the highway every day because you lived 40 miles away from work, 30 miles away from work, even 20 each way, I'd be like, yeah, 4,500 miles. You're probably good. But these shorter trips, we've seen so many of them come in, and like we say, we put a lot of engines and transmissions in our shop, and probably 19 out of 20 of the engines that come into our shop to be replaced failed because of an oil system issue. Whatever that issue was, sludged up, timing chains worn out, rockers cams worn out, it's an oil system failure. We believe in the oil service.
Jason, thanks very much for the call. That one's pretty straightforward, though.
Yeah.
On that.
Well, just once he said the use of the vehicle, and you've got a very sophisticated engine there. That, like Russ mentioned, that engine's got a lot going on. And we talk about it often. Engineers can make amazing things, but they also use highly engineered fluids to accomplish their goals. You got to keep them fresh.
866-594-4150. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we want to hear from you on the End of the Hood Show. From the Autotempest.com studios, all the cars, one search, Autotempest.com/hoodie.
Hoodie.
This is the End of the Hood Show. Got a question here on the YouTube chat regarding a Can-Am Spyder trike.
Oh, yeah.
But in general, if there is a front wheel vibration from 40 to 46 miles an hour, but goes away after that, is that usually a wheel balance thing? What else could it be?
I'm thinking it's probably wheel balance on that.
Okay.
I definitely start with that because then you start getting into components after that.
Yeah. I mean, you could pull those things off and have them balance. I'd definitely balance it.
And that's the two on the front, two wheels on the front, one behind.
Yep.
As opposed to in the 70s when the trikes were.
Russ, have you ever drove one of those Spyders?
Oh, yeah. And my sister had one, too.
Okay, I've
the
never
Riker.
driven one.
Yeah, they're fun.
What was it like?
It was like driving it's almost exactly like driving a three-wheel motorcycle, but backwards.
Did it steer any quicker or feel any different? Or
It's weird because if you steer pretty hard to one right or left at lower speeds, down the highway it's fine, but at lower speeds you're kind of like pushing into it. It's like when you used to drive the three-wheel ATVs.
Yep.
When you turn it, feel like you were going to tip over towards the front, like the back was pushing up. This feels like the front's pushing up. It's odd, but
did you have to?
They don't lean at all.
Did you have to feel any? Did it take you a adjustment period of any sort?
You just kind of jump on it and go.
Okay.
Yeah, it's.
I'd like to think that would be the case, but you
yeah,
never know.
they're different. They're just the way they're built. In this state, they do things like they will let you license an ATV and ride it on the street. Four-wheeler, side-by-side.
It has a lot to do with our ag economy and
I
why
know.
it's so necessary in some parts of the state.
Well, it's really
it seems
not.
weird in the center of Sioux Falls.
Yeah, they shouldn't. They really shouldn't do it, but they do. And when I was a kid, I'd say, "Oh yeah, it'd be great if we could register those things and drive them on the street," but you just couldn't. And they've got to have like lights and stuff like that.
Blinkers, horns.
So you can register a two-wheel vehicle. You could even register a one-wheel vehicle. Those one wheels that you stand on. So you can register a one-wheel. You could register a two-wheel motorcycle. You can register a three-wheel trike, right? Either a Riker, a backwards trike, or a Harley-Davidson standard trike. You can register a four-wheel ATV. You can register a four-wheel car. You cannot register a three-wheel ATV. You can't go take a Honda 250R or a Big Red and put lights and a horn on it and mirrors and car tires to make it street legal like you do with the other ones and register it because it says it's a three-wheel ATV. You can register a trike, but you can't register a three-wheel ATV. And the reason for it, I went back and forth with them at the DMV about this. I said, you tell me why I can't do it. It says, well, because it's an ATV and it says it's not legal for sale or use on a highway. I said exactly what a side-by-side says. There's a sticker right on it. It says not legal for use on a public highway. I said none of those, or the four-wheelers you buy, four-wheel ATVs, you put tires on, they have a sticker right on them, not legal for use on the highway. And actually, there's been down in Texas, I know somebody, a law firm down there, they've actually had lawsuits involving people where it was the person driving the car. It was their fault. They ran into a person on an ATV, but they won even though they were at fault because they said, look, this vehicle shouldn't have been on the road. It's not maneuverable. But, those ATVs, you're talking about the driving the trikes. Like I said, they shouldn't be doing it because a lot of it doesn't have a purpose like an
on
ag
Twitter,
use. But I want to ride one on this. I want to go get an old three-wheel ATV and put the regular tire, the street tires on it, and I want to drive that thing on the highway.
On Twitter, you get the feeds from, like in our market, we have T-Storm Chasers and Argus 911, different things that, they follow scanner traffic and what's going on. And the other day there was a incident, injury involved, and it was whatever intersection of our town. And then they put up street camera footage that came from somewhere, and it was a 4-seater UTV laying on its side in the middle of the intersection. No other vehicles near it, so you're like, okay, you start going through it. Turn too fast, get hit. I didn't see any other vehicles, but it just doesn't look right when you see that stuff in the middle of a metro area. When somebody pulls up beside you at the stoplight on a quad that I used to race on the dirt, it just doesn't seem right.
When they're sitting on top of it, it really seems, especially when they're going 55 down a street.
I'm not saying I wouldn't do it.
Right.
It just doesn't look right.
You just look at it and go, ugh. Anything you can fall off of.
I bet at some point they'll change the laws, at least within the city limits.
Well, because I've done enough of this stuff that they're designed to slip. They're designed to be on dirt.
Yeah.
They're designed to be on sand. They're designed to be. That's my opinion.
Right.
And you put street tires on them because you can, but it still doesn't turn very good. It doesn't. You don't. I raced on concrete floors with Coke syrup on them, and you don't turn very good. You have to set your machine up to turn.
Brakes don't work as well.
It just doesn't seem right.
Let's go to Wisconsin and talk to Nathan. Wisconsin, there's another place where the four-wheelers have the right of way.
They race on cheese.
Yeah. Nathan, what can we do for you?
It's a big deal.
Hey, guys. How's it going?
Great. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, I got a little bit of a weird one here. So I have a 2011 Toyota Sienna, and ours is the XLE, and it has the smart key. So you have the fob that you have a smart button, I guess a push button start on the dash. So sometime late last week, I noticed that I didn't really know where my key was, and my wife and I have two keys. And I checked with her, and she had her key was in the house. And last time I remember having my key, it fell down kind of next to my driver's seat in the van. So I just hadn't dug for it yet. And being that it's a situation that you can still start the vehicle when the key's nearby, it was a day or two since I had it. And we parked the car in the garage. So I, just kind of forgot that it was in there. So I went and, pushed this push button start, and the vehicle's still starting. So I knew the key was in the vehicle. So I started digging around, and I looked and looked and looked, and for the life of me, I could not find that key anywhere near my seat or anywhere around the dash area of the vehicle. And what was really throwing me off is I was really, tied to this perception that the key needed to be near the dashboard, because I've had it in the door of my van, and it had the door open, and the vehicle wouldn't start. It would say that the key's not nearby, it's not recognized. So I spent a day or two looking for that key, and I guess the reason I called in was just asking the question if there's any way to scan or find if the key, kind of where the key is without, knowing. I was wondering if it was like under my seat somewhere, under the carpet or something like that.
You need a key-sniffing dog.
Yeah, essentially.
Divining rod.
Here, boy. Get it.
Because I know it's there.
We have had this exact problem. We had a Ford Focus that we repaired. One of the technical schools used it as a car that students put together. It was just a neat little car, fun little car, but you could start that car anytime you wanted without the key. And
because it was somewhere.
And we didn't own the car originally, and we were like, okay. And so we tried a lot of things. We asked a lot of questions, trying to figure out we found out what the process would look like.
Our guy found it.
To get another set of keys, and it changed the frequency, and that wasn't a great option. That was kind of expensive and not a great option. In some cases, not even possible if you can't disconnect the other key. We ended up tearing the car apart and found that during the accident, apparently it had made its way. Where did he find that at?
I thought it had gone through the pocket and ended up behind the carpet, behind the console.
Yeah, it was. I thought he found it up near inside
Every
the
time
dash
I remember
somewhere.
where it's at, he's like, "Nope, it was here."
I was thinking it was up somewhere in the dash.
Right
that
now
it
he's
made its
saying,
way into.
That's what I was thinking. I was looking under the pockets because there's a pocket in the dash, and I was wondering maybe it jumped up out of there and was stuck behind the dash. I was up under there looking with a flashlight. I couldn't find it under there.
It's not too hard to just cough on the air. Yeah, I'm better now. All right, it's not too hard to pull the two front seats out. 2 bolts, they tip forward, they pull out, or 4 bolts, depending on the model of them. Take the seats out, take the console out. You can do this in a few hours on a Saturday, and then you'll be able to get a lot of access. You'll be able to get around the seats.
And hopefully you find it on your first thing you remove on the way out.
Yeah, start on the driver's side. And, then you'll be able to get behind the carpet where the console, it's usually open in the center area there, and you'll be able to get down in, and hopefully you're going to find it. But I would look look in the seats. It may have fallen down. Think if you were sitting there and you lost it, maybe it fell down between the plastic on the edge of the seat and got wedged inside of there somewhere.
A lot of carpet in vehicles has a front carpet and a rear carpet, and they overlap underneath the seat. And if you reached and pushed on it or hit something, you could have inadvertently pushed it underneath the layer of carpet that overlaps or underlaps, or around the seat pegs. They'll have cutouts a lot of times.
Maybe you could, the other thing you do too is when you're in an auto parts store, you hold that thing up to the little scanner on the counter and it tells you if it's working or not. It lights up and tells you there's a signal by it. I haven't tried it, but it seems like you can find anything when you go to Amazon and stuff. Go to Amazon and type in RF scanner. Maybe somebody makes a little handheld thing like you use for your tires for pressure, and when you get close to something emitting a signal, it lights up.
Can I borrow that thing on your counter for a second? You have an extension cord? I'm going to take it out to my car and see if it lights up. Pass it over like
a fob finder for $19.99.
Nathan, thanks very much for the call. Good luck. Randy and Clem, you guys hang on. We'll take you right after the show here. We will get your questions answered. All right, this is the Under the Hood Show after show. We don't stop answering questions when the show's over.
We roll.
Unless we have to, but today we don't. Let's talk to Randy in Arizona. Randy, you're on the Under the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Hey, guys, thanks for taking my call. I listen to you. You're on tape delay here. I listen to you every Sunday.
Awesome.
But,
Thank you.
Anyway, last week I couldn't agree with you more, and you guys are talking about recommending the LTD police car versus like the Ford Explorers. And I've got a Marquis, same engine and everything. I'm telling you, it's the best car, and you can still buy them pretty cheap. So my question is, I got an 04 Marquis. It's got about 100,000 miles. I've had it for 50,000 miles. It's been an awesome car. I've done everything right. I bought some brake pads with the braces and everything. And before I put them on, I thought I'd ask about, before I go through the whole process, put them on and have a squeak. I've heard the guy at the auto parts place told me if you take like a piece of not sandpaper, but like a green pad, and go, just kind of wipe down the drum, because it's four-wheel disc brakes. So I was wondering, what can I do to eliminate a possible squeaking noise by putting those on?
Well, we recommend replacing the rotors or turning the rotors when you do a brake job every time. That's how you eliminate those kind of things. So they wear in together, they seat in together. If you're just not going to do that, and a lot of people just don't, if the rotors look nice, you've got to clean them up. And typically that green roll-lock disc, if you take the glaze off of the rotor without digging into it and causing a warpage issue, will help break it up where it will seat into the new pads. That's one thing you need to do. And the other thing you need to do too is make sure you have new brake hardware on those pads. Carlson Quality Brake Hardware. We've talked about them years ago on the show, and they have kits for install kits to help with that kind of stuff that include things like the brake lube that's needed for the slides and the spring clips and all that kind of stuff. If you don't have the right anti-rattle clips and all that stuff on there, they're going to squeak or
you
they're going
want
to
stuff
rattle.
that's engineered for that vehicle.
Yeah, exactly. So those are important things. But as far as the rotors themselves go, if you're not completely replacing them with a brand new rotor, you've got to scuff that surface in order to allow the brake pad to properly seat into the rotor.
And make sure your surfaces that hold the calipers are clean, smooth, so that caliper can slide good. That's you can get resonant squeaks just from that mounting area. Back in the day, you used to always use a lot of slip plate and things like that when you put them together. Russ, you guys still do that or not? Or like on the attachment parts and touching parts, and you'd have the silver.
Yeah, we make sure we lubricate all that with high temperature brake lubricant, on all the sliding parts.
So that's just
everywhere.
I got a couple of those little packets of that lube, so you put that on all the moving parts of the new braces, for lack of the
Right.
the kit, right?
Calipers and all that stuff.
So, yeah, so I put it on all that. I was thinking when I got it, it would go right on the drums, but
some
don't
people
be a
do.
fool.
Yeah, no, some people do think that we've seen that before, and it will ruin pads immediately, and we'll just call it stain the metal surface of the drum or the rotor, and it'll ruin it. You can't get it off of there unless you actually turn them. So,
Russ, take a second and talk about if somebody did go out and get all new rotors and pads, the process they should do after they get the brakes done and to kind of burnish them in.
Here's the thing. Did you buy those pads at O'Reilly Auto Parts?
No, I bought them at AutoZone.
Okay, here's an advantage.
And I bought the bought the most expensive ones, and with that had the kits because I knew I needed that.
Here's an advantage of O'Reilly Auto Parts. A lot of their stores have a brake turning service in store. So
if you buy a kit from them, they'll turn it.
You get the rotors turned for a reasonable price, and that's great. I mean, even if you didn't buy them there, you can go there and talk to them about it. But I would definitely think about that, having them turned or replacing them to make sure you eliminate
just
those
enough
squeaks.
to clean them up, even if they're not more than that bad.
Yeah, they don't need a lot of cutting, just a little.
Does that help you out there, Randy?
Well, yeah. Let me ask you this, if you don't mind, real quick. So the pads that are on there they look as thick as the ones I've got, and I'm not having any problems. Do you see a problem of not worrying about it for a while?
No, then don't change them. If they're still that heavy and you're not having any problem, there's no reason to change them. You could clean up the slides, make sure they stay lubricated and everything. But as far as the pad and the rotor goes, make sure they go back exactly the way they came off, same wheel and same direction and everything. But it shouldn't be a problem. They'll last a long time.
Sounds good. Well, sounds good. I'll let you get to the next guy. I know you guys are on overtime. I appreciate it. I'll listen to you Sunday.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Randy.
Thank you.
Let's go. We're going to stay in Arizona. We're going to talk to Clem in Arizona. Clem, you're on the End of the Hood Show. What can we do for you?
Yeah, I'm the guy that traded off this beautiful GMC Denali dually, and I bought this 2012 Dodge.
Yeah.
What I've noticed here, and it took about a year or a year and a half to look at because it never rains in this stupid state. All it does is you wipe your wiper blades and it knocks the sand off your windows. Anyway, I'm sitting there looking at it because I was running my wiper motor and the water was going against the windshield. And I got a 20-inch wiper blade on the driver's side and a 12-inch on the passenger side. And the one that's 12 inches is only running about 3 inches on the glass, and the rest of the windshield is not being touched. Did someone put wrong wiper blades on this truck, do you think? Or do you think I'm going to have to take it down to O'Reilly's and find out what the parts number is for the wiper blades? But
yep,
it's bothered me. I've owned this truck now for about 4 years, and I've put about 3,000 miles on it. But
I would. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It should be contacting most of the entire service. I would go to O'Reilly Auto Parts, ask them about for a blade, but I'd get the whole arm. They do make arm kits for most vehicles now, and the reason with getting an arm is they have the spring tension gets weak in those. So you got something that's 10, 11 years old. Spring tension is weak. The arms really aren't that much. So you get the whole arm with the wiper blade and everything on it. It just bolts on there, and then you're fixed. You've got the proper pressure holding it down. You've got the proper length blade, everything. You could do just the side that's not working well, or you could do both. But I'd say at least get a new wiper blade for the good side, and then replace that whole arm assembly on the other side that's not contacting
Some
well.
vehicles do have offset wiper arms, but I'm thinking of looking at Ram trucks and things like that. I don't remember seeing one with a 12-inch wiper blade on either side.
We got a 12 at the shop right now, and it doesn't have that short a blade on it.
No,
I've seen
that doesn't sound right.
I was using the wipers yesterday.
Big ones
it was raining in our state.
23 and 19.
Yeah,
but not.
That sounds not right by what you're telling us.
12 sounds like a 1968.
Sounds like they took it off the back of a.
I think it's got at least an 18 on that passenger side. Like a 22 on the driver and an 18 on the right.
Seems like you could look that one up too, pretty.
Because that'd be the same as that Ram that we just sold.
Yeah, no,
and that had, I put blades on that, and it had it was about that big on that side and about that big on the other, and you can't see unless you're watching YouTube right now, but it's bigger than
Bread basket.
Subway foot-long
Yeah.
sandwich.
Clem, thanks very
Sounds
much for
good.
the call. Good luck. The after show this time brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Seemed like it.
Yeah, let's go.
Big shout out to our partners there.
I was there the other day. We had this conversation a couple weeks ago. I used to look at the car wax aisle. I would go to buy whatever. I would go to buy car wash soap. And I would stand in that aisle and think, who is shopping in this aisle?
It was really popular in the 80s, wasn't it? That's, I mean, they made a movie out of it. Wax on, wax
I was
off.
just like, I can't believe all the stuff they sell in here. And then
Oh,
a couple
there's
weeks ago, I
tons
said,
and
now
tons
I
and
get
tons
it.
of stuff.
I go, I look, and I go, this one is Supreme Black polish versus, and I think,
How do you like that? For black cars, for
And then-
lighter cars. Have you see that?
Yeah.
They do that
Have I
because
seen it? Yeah.
Yeah, because you got the black car and
Yeah.
all the scratches, and then if you use the one,
Put a little pigment in there.
yes,
So
it
not
doesn't
only
leave the white streak.
Not only have I become that guy, not only am I the guy going,
That's why I
let's-
started buying brown underwear. I mean, it's just a.
Let's see
you
what
gotta
else.
blend in.
Let's see what else is in this aisle. Last week, after we talked about this on the show, I was in the car wash aisle, and I was looking, and I was going, you know, the stuff I have almost a full bottle of this stuff, but it is a year old now.
Oh yeah,
it
you gotta
might be-
gotta replace it every
I
year.
might be better off getting the new wax because I mean my stuff is a year old. So I am a rube.
Do you throw away the old wax?
No, of course not. It's probably still good. I'll just leave it. I did actually throw some away the other day, and I was like, and it felt great because it was sticking to the shelf. You know that it was, yeah. And I was
They
like,
always
oh.
start to leak,
Yeah.
don't they? Out of the bottom corner. Like,
yeah.
You were liberated a little bit.
Yeah, that day I was texting you and telling you all the stuff I had done.
You pick
I
up
was,
the bottle and it looks like a pancake stuck to the corner of
Yeah.
it. And you're like, hey, what's this?
My wife's like, who spent $140 at the auto
So
parts
what's
store?
what's the most unique specialized cleaner that you've bought?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Because they make special cleaners. I'm sure if you look hard enough, they have radiator cap polish.
I bought. I did do the.
I do have some radiator cap polish
Oh,
for my
no.
Model T.
Okay, well that's
It's got a
different.
brass cap. I use Brasso on it.
Yeah.
I just had to throw that in there.
brass monkey. Okay,
I have the plastic black. I have the chrome. I have. I did buy that day. I went and bought rubbing compound, polish, and ceramic wax, polymer.
you ever worry about
hybrid
a chemical reaction that just makes it all work wrong?
yeah. I do. I thought about
My
it.
car is shiny,
And
but
I-
it bursts into flames.
And I have.
Wait, what's that
I
low
know-
luster burn you have going on?
I now have pads for my rotary polisher for each stage. I don't.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I
Don't mix 'em. Don't
yeah,
mix 'em.
yeah. No, I don't. I use only new when I do the. It's ridiculous. It is. And here's the thing.
I'm staring at you right
here's
now.
the thing, though. While I'm doing all this, I am going 4 steps deep.
He's definitely not changing his oil.
When I wash and wax my car, I'm going 4 steps deep. However, I don't do close to the seams because I don't want to have to deal with getting the seams. So while I'm doing this 4-step beautiful polish on the fender of my car, I'm not butting it up to the door because I don't want to have to clean out on the crease.
I am completely enamored with people that do high-end detailing.
I gotta just bring it in and go. Here's
because they're the
You get your
detail-
wife's toothbrush out, and
the
you
detail level
clean
that they
those
get
vents
to,
really well.
I mean, I'm talking about a high-end detail, and the wiring of that person and company that does that, the people that do it, is just takes. They have a lot of pride in the end result because the tedious work it takes to get there is tedious work.
I have a friend who did it for years. And when I got this car, I called him and I said, hey, do you still do that? Would you do this? He said, oh, you know what? I haven't done it for about 3 years. And I said, well, do you want to do it? He's like, no. I stopped doing it and my life changed so much for the better. He said, when I stopped doing it, my entire life changed. It totally changed my brain out of that thing. And I used to be that way about everything because I was that minutely detailed on detailing cars.
So I
and
think
now,
it could make you OCD.
yeah, he said I couldn't do it right now if you paid me. I said, oh, I wasn't going to pay you.
This is
And
a
he's like,
terrible.
"Oh, I know."
This is a terrible transition, Russ. Could you possibly own a vehicle detailing business?
No, I couldn't find any employees.
No, you'd never be done.
I would. I'd have pay somebody else to do it.
It'd be hard.
I'd just manage stuff and go, why didn't you clean that enough? You didn't clean it enough. You should have cleaned
That's
it
why
more,
you pay,
more,
right?
more,
That's why you have
more.
no employees.
Yeah.
Probably. Could be.
Russ has been detailing cars full time, and by the end of the summer, he'll be done with that car.
I'm kind of that way when I get into it. Where do you stop?
Mhm.
You know, and that's where I think the professionals that they do know that. All right, okay, I don't have to do that, but I do have to do this.
Right.
It's like when you're rebuilding an engine. It's like, look, this is your.
And that's the
your-
difference
you
right
were-
there.
When you're putting a remanufactured engine in, they don't want a detail. They want a good running car. So there's a difference between, look, that valve cover has the grease is off it. You know, the running off grease is gone. The caked on dirt is gone. The gasket surfaces are clean. Put it together. You don't have to scrape it down to bare metal. You know, repaint it. No, there's like 4 hours difference between clean and good running and whoa, look at that thing shine. And they
Sometimes
just
for what
don't.
people have to pay anymore, you kind of want to give them a polish and a car wash but you know it is. It's just it all costs money. It all
Although,
takes time.
you saw my engine.
It looked good.
Yeah, and I've used that. That was a shortcut
But
trick.
I did notice that on those fancy pipes,
Yeah.
they weren't clean right to the base of the
No, they
fancy
were
pipe.
And you know what's sad?
Yeah,
So we're trying to get Chris blew his car up. So I'm like, I'm going to work on this thing. And
Have you looked under the hood yet?
oh yeah,
Yeah, it looks nice, huh?
I didn't notice.
Oh, don't
I wasn't
start.
looking. I mean,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
telling you, I'm so busy
Go look.
lately. I didn't. I
didn't
opened the
stop
hood.
to-
I started taking connectors off. I would have noticed if it was super dirty,
Yeah.
but I didn't stop and take the time and go, "Wow, it's so clean." And you guys had told me about it,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't look. I mean, I opened the hood and I started taking connectors off, and I realized, this is a job where somebody needs to pull that out. It's been in the shop for like a week and a half, but somebody needs to take it out, and then I need to fix the engine, and then they need to put it back in. Because if I start taking it out, it's going to take me like 2 weeks for me to get it out between, because it just don't have that and then nobody else can put it back together because it's not like all standard like
Right.
a Solstice would be. So I'm like, so I started taking off the things that aren't going to matter, like the hood and all that stuff. But yeah, I should have. When I get back,
Look
it's
at it.
right next to my toolbox. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go, wow,
Yeah.
look at that shiny job. I'm gonna start a detail business and hire Chris to work for me right
You're-
away.
You are exactly right. The pipes on that thing are spotless, but not at the base. Yeah,
I
that is
noticed
exactly.
But
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for it.
No,
but
right.
I know that because
Yeah, the top. Oh, the top of it looks great. All right, that'll do it. We got stuff to do now, so that is the after show. Thanks everybody for joining us. Subscribe, and like the show and get the notifications on YouTube. We're
And all
going
you-
YouTube now, not Facebook anymore.
Yeah, and go out and get addicted to autotempest.com/hoodie. Just go there and search for cars and go, oh, that was cool. And then you're gonna hate us because you're going there so many
our
times.
market representative Tim told me right before I came up here that they used autotempest.com. He said they had a family member looking for a car, and they said, hey, let's check autotempest.com. He had heard about it.
/hoodie.
They ended up buying a car that they found on autotempest.com. It was a local car that they bought, but they found it on autotempest.com.
Nice. Yeah, it's a fun tool. And like we talked about earlier in the show, you can set parameters. Really, I mean, if you want to spend $2,000 on a car, you can look at cars that are priced at $2,000 within 80 miles of your
That's
house.
when I've really been finding it is when I do that.
Yeah.
I set a price in there and filter out some things, and then you get all the way down like the Facebook Marketplace, and you're like, oh, look, hey, there's one on Facebook Marketplace, and it's, it may be 800, 900 miles away, but it's still a car there. And then there's ones close to you as well. You can't believe some of the stuff eBay, Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, all those things are in one thing. And how many times have we, I can remember going to 10 different search sites trying to find something. And sometimes I'll find the same car listed on 2 or 3 of them. But until Auto Tempest came around, getting them all in one place with one click is...
And they're getting better. I mean, they've added more stuff even since we started using them.
It's constant. And more of our listeners are hearing about it. And it's just kind of taken off. But it is addicting, Chris.
It is.
Drags you in.